Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to
Something else.
something else, Daddy.
This is Nickel Matan, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
Hey. Welcome to episode number 278 of Something Else. Feature heroes in this week's episode as we take a look at NWA Total Nonstop Action, episode number 87 from March the 10th, 2004. Actually, pardon me, I don't think I even updated that. I may have messed up the episode number 2. It's March 17th, 2004, live from Nashville, Tennessee. What I am doing is I just take the top of the prior week's episode and I just copy paste it onto the next the next page to take my notes on. And I'm normally good with making sure I edit the dates and all that, and apparently I sucked at it this time. The episode number is correct. It is episode 87 of NWA TNA. Just it was March 17th, 2004, from the TNA Asylum in Nashville, Tennessee. My name is Arya, and joining me as always is, the Chris Harris to my Jeff Jarrett. It's Cyndi. Cyndi, I don't think you're ready.
Knock, knock.
So, how the hell are you doing today?
I'm actually doing all right. I'm having a chill weekend. Had lunch with a wonderful person. Been replaying Breath of the Wild. And dreading that I might have mandatory overtime next weekend. So you know what that means.
We may have a substitute next weekend.
Yep.
In case Trey doesn't have enough mental health problems, we make him watch TNA every so often. It's to keep him honest, you see, because we can't just keep limiting the fun to the two of us. Although we'll say this, this was a good for TNA episode of TNA.
Yeah.
Yes. Of all the episodes we've ever seen of TNA, this is up there as one of the better episodes that did not involve a lot of non-TNA contracted talent, which really tells you something, too. When the best episodes of TNA tend to involve people not under contract to TNA. Maybe they should work on this. Oh, God. But yeah, it's March 17th. It is St. Patrick's Day here in the United States, if you believe in such a thing. And let's tell you what else is happening in the world of TNA, thanks to page 14 of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that week.
Soon they're going to work their way to page 12.
Oh, baby. Maybe even page 8 if they really get everything together. So the WWC in Puerto Rico is interested in bringing back Dutch as the booker, and Dutch told them that he feels that TNA is solid for the next 2 years. So Dutch believes TNA will still be here come 2006. However, he is interested in coming in one weekend a month to help book down in Puerto Rico. So the story about the Insane Clown Posse continues, and what happened was they called to find out what their creative was for the March 17th show, and were told that they were booked for a match on Explosion and could do an angle or a promo on the pay-per-view, and the Insane Clown Posse were quite offended by this. Quite offended by this. And so they have decided not to come back. And that's not that's not appealing them to the rest of the AEW roster, who have all had to work Explosion at some point or another. So The ICP is getting in everyone's good side here.
Mm-hmm.
TNA officials were not happy that AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and CM Punk publicly supported Ring of Honor in the wake of the Rob Feinstein scandal.
Yeah,
TNA
the
is
Fob
frustrated that
Reinstein scandal.
yes. TNA is frustrated that internet fans haven't embraced them the same way they've embraced the same way that TNA has embraced the internet. Meanwhile, fans and wrestlers believe that TNA will soon tell them that they can no longer work for Ring of Honor. And this does get brought up here on the show, but Chris Sabin suffered a knee injury a few weeks ago, so the future of the X Division title is in jeopardy. The doctor told him to rest it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, his knee is said to be in worse shape.
What did he do? I mean, it's Chris Sabin.
I mean, they claimed it was during the tag match earlier, a couple of weeks ago.
You mean the 8-man?
And no, there wasn't even a tag match like 2 or 3 weeks ago on this show. Maybe it was a 6-man tag.
Yeah,
When they did that stupid Team Japan thing.
Of course.
By the way, I said this when Mick Foley did it. I said this when Bryan Danielson did it. I'm going to say it now that the Jacksons are doing it. Stop bleeding in front of your children. Because I don't care how many times you tell children that what daddy does is fake. Having your fucking dad bleed 3 feet fucking away from you is not fucking good. It's traumatic. And I would bet that Mick Foley's daughter, who's not Colette because that's his wife, I can't remember her goddamn name. It doesn't really matter. But I bet if you ask her, yes, Noelle, I bet she would tell you that, yes, she is still traumatized from that. You know? So there's my rant. Yeah, spoiler alert, we're recording this at the same time as AEW Revolution. And, you know.
Yeah.
Go watch AEW Revolution.
I am not. Mainly because I don't feel like paying $50 for it.
Yes, because I definitely paid to watch this show. On to TNA. Frankie Kazarian versus Elix Skipper. When was the last time Skipper had a singles match on one of these shows other than that one America's X Cup match?
Forever.
Like, literally, like, wasn't it like, I feel like the last time he was in a singles match was when he was doing the scale gimmick. When he had his bathroom scale etiquette. Yeah. So,
pound for pound, the best wrestler with a scale. That was in July or August.
And they announced that next week we're going to be 6-man elimination X Division match. And they also told us that the next America's X Cup is going to be April the 7th. And so we'll see what happens with that one here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as the match got started, Tenay let us know that Christopher Daniels and Low Key are talking. So this is a step towards the reformation of Triple X. This was a very acrobatic match, and to me, it's always funny seeing Kazarian doing dives over the top rope because, especially as he got, more and more popular over the years, Kazarian has not been a very big dive guy.
No.
Skipper missed a guillotine leg drop. Now, I want to say this. The smoothest guillotine leg drop I've ever seen was by Ken Doane or Kenny Dykstra in WWE.
Yeah.
However, Skipper's was right up there. Like that thing was a thing of beauty. And why is it like it's always the people who never win that end up with a pretty nifty little top rope leg drop?
I don't know. Didn't Bobby Eaton have a pretty damn good leg drop off the top rope?
He did, but he didn't fluidly jump from the ring mat to the top rope.
Okay.
And ultimately, though, Kazarian won with a schoolboy and a handful of tights. After the match, because again, we can't just have a match with a winner and a loser, which, by the way, happens, I think, in every match on this show. But after the match, Kazarian randomly attacked Skipper, so Jerry Lynn made the save. This was a good opener, not a great opener, but a good opener. And as always, when we start the show with a good match, that's usually a good sign. And I gave this a 5.5 out of 10.
I liked it. I totally agree with you, but I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are two excellent workers who know how to flow in the ring with each other, and it just turned out to be a pretty good match. And this, you see, the structure of the show, spoiler alert, is what these pay-per-views should be. You start out with a good to great X Division match or multi-man match, and you end with your main event that makes total sense.
Ish. And so we're going to get to one of the big problems of the show up next. Scott Hudson was now with several of the contenders in tonight's number one contenders gauntlet match. And main event Glenn Gilberti said that the five of them, which were Hims, Johnny Swinger, Kid Cash, Michael Shane, and David Young, will be the number one and number two contenders after tonight, and only David Young legitimately agreed to be behind Gilberti. Now, last week on this very program, we were informed that AJ Styles would be wrestling Abyss in a ladder match, and the winner of that match would become the number one contender to the world title, no matter who won between Jeff Jarrett and young Christopher Harris. They'd be the number one contenders to those belts, or to the belt, pardon me. It never really, they tried, I guess, to explain at one point by saying that the winner of the ladder match will get the next shot, but then the winner of the gauntlet match will get the shot after that. No. Like, don't make things more fucking confusing than it needs to be. Just, we only need one number one contender. And, like, if you're trying to come up with a way to have some sort of multi-man world title match or whatever, make it make sense. And it doesn't make sense when you have 2 or 3 number one contender matches on the same show. And especially by the end of this show, and I have to go back, I think there's like 5 people that I'm like, there's more or less 5 number one contenders by the end of this show.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah. And I know that they will work their way out of that, but it's just excessive. It's kind of like when they started doing the Feast or Fire gimmick, like at one point there seemed like there were 5 people who all were owed world title matches or had some sort of briefcase type thing.
Yeah.
It's like, that's shenanigans. We just make it simple, people. Keep it simple, stupid. And by the way, they don't tell us until later, but the 10 people in the gauntlet match are the 10 people in the 10-man tag last week. And I could not remember who the babyface team was. But we'll cover that here in a few minutes. Mike Tenay was now in the ring, and he brought Vince Russo out for a promo. Russo said that he was mean to Chris Harris for his own good, and somehow wrestling the Naturals was so Harris could know how Jeff Jarrett thinks. And then he hopes and prays, his words, not mine, that Harris is the new NWA champion. And, if anybody watched this show, they might be slightly offended by the use of religious iconography and by using the Lord's name for something as trivial as professional wrestling. Back in 1993, oh my God, Russert from NBC News, Tim Russert, prayed on the air that the Buffalo Bills would win the Super Bowl, and he got a lot of flack for that. So this wasn't quite praying that Chris Harris would win the title, but yeah, leave your prayer out of pro wrestling. Anyway, this brought out Raven and Sabu. And the fans actually, well, not fans, It was more like fan, and there was so little noise that it might as well just been just the one person. Anyway, there was a "What about Raven" chant, which I think is the first time I've ever heard that on a pro wrestling show.
I could have sworn that I heard it a couple of times in WCW, but I could be wrong.
Well, Raven is mad that he is not on the show at all today. And so first, Russo put Raven and Sabu in the tag team title tournament, which starts next week. And Raven said he doesn't want the tag titles and that Sabu can fend for himself. So Russo put him in the Gauntlet match. And I'm like, oh, does that make it now an 11-man Gauntlet match? Because again, they never really told us who was in the match till later. Anyway, Raven sarcastically thanked Russo, saying he doesn't need to qualify. And then Russo offered to put him in the ladder match with AJ and Abyss. And Raven again reiterated that he doesn't need to qualify. Raven said that when Jeff Jarrett beats Chris Harris, then Harris will slide into a career tailspin he'll never recover from. So he should put Raven in the match instead. Russo said
He
no.
can see the future.
Russo said no. Raven said yes. Russo said no. Raven said yes. Russo said no. They then talked about politics, bro, because this is fake and people don't win because they're better, bro. They win because these are the people not being held down, bro. Because again, who is holding people down in pro wrestling? Like, I'll make.
I don't want to go there. I have an answer, but I don't want to go there.
I said something I think on Twitter, either Twitter or Facebook the other day that I got some shit for. I'll say that in a second. But Raven said he'll have Russo's full attention by the end of the show. What did you think of this?
It started fine. It started making sense. But as you said, when the politics stuff got in, I was like, oh boy, here we go again. But I get it with Raven. I mean, every time he's had a title shot or something close, something fucky happens. And he is if I was booking this company, he would be a number one contender, but not yet. After Chris Harris gets it, Raven, in my mind, would be one of the next challengers. But once the politics stuff got into it, I was like, you can't control yourself, can you?
So one of my favorite shows to watch on TV right now is Abbott Elementary. You watch that show?
It's a really good show.
It's a really good show. Now, I know that Abbott Elementary is fake. That is a fake show. That is not real life. However, during the show, the actor who plays Gregory Eddy doesn't turn to the camera and say, hey, this is fake. I'm not really in love with Quinta Brunson, and I don't want to be in a relationship with her. That doesn't happen because I'm supposed to believe that Abbott Elementary is real, and they don't take me out of it by reminding me how fake it is. And you can do that on pro wrestling. Like, yes, we know it's fake. You don't have to tell us it's fake.
It's this work shoot garbage.
And nobody gives a shit. Because everyone knows it's just that. Bullshit. Oh, Lord. But yeah. Again, Vince Russo, the almighty soothsayer.
No, Raven was the soothsayer here.
You remember like a year ago or so, like when Russo was the top heel instead of the top babyface, and they did like, I think it was an 8-man tag, and it may have been Russo and Triple X versus Jeff Jarrett, Dusty Rhodes, and 2 other people, maybe even the Legion of Doom. And the whole point of the match wasn't that all these people want to get at Jeff Jarrett because he's the world champion, or all these people want to get at Triple X because, you know, they're a great team. They all want to go after Vince Russo. That is more important than, you know, the actual the wrestlers, bro.
Yeah, cutting off the head of the snake, so to speak.
Scott Hudson was now with the alpha male Monty Brown. Brown said that he is the alpha male and he is running things around here. He is the only person doing any hunting. And this was one of those classic Monty Brown promos where he does comedy with his goofy voices mixed in with a serious promo. And he finished by saying the last thing anyone would remember is the pounce period. And I gave it just the amount of emphasis that Monty Brown did. He did not say it was going to be the pounce period. It was the pounce period.
It's for his first on-screen promo in what, a year and a half?
I don't remember him cutting a promo when he was here the first time.
He might have had to sit down with Tenay or something. I don't know. But this is the type of promo that I love. It's part serious, part goofy, part badass, part shouty. And Monty Brown has the charisma to pull it off. And by the way, you know how I said that the show is improving a bit? Guess what? We're no longer in front of a brick wall.
Yes, they gave us a brand new entrance set. I was thinking, was this brand new? I couldn't remember if they had that before.
This is brand new. Because remember, we had the X Division and they still had the wall.
Yes, it's improving production, ladies and gentlemen. They're putting some money into this shit. Which is funny because later on,
$1,500 into this.
Jeff Jarrett's still sitting in front of the fucking wall later on, but that is still to come. So,
yeah,
by the way,
like, that had a door, so that's sort of locker room ish.
I have some AEW news here. FTR have defeated the Young Bucks, and somebody is coming out to. Oh, Edge and Christian have come back to attack FTR. Well,
Makes sense.
I guess just Edge right now, but I'm assuming Christian is going to be behind him in a minute. Monty Brown versus Chris Vaughn. And of course, TNA being TNA, he comes out. And this is Monty Brown, the alpha male Monty Brown. He comes out and his entrance video, his Titantron, spells his name with an E. Monte Brown. However, seconds after that, his lower third comes up and they list him as Monty with a Y.
I guess Borash didn't get the memo.
And like this is not the first time because like how many times like Eric Watts' name is never spelled consistently. Glenn Gilberti, there was a whole thing last year. I'm like, is it one N or two N's? Because like they kept switching it up. But yeah. And by the way, here's Edge and Christian. Now that Edge and Christian got revenge on FTR, they're now going to get more revenge. See, it's not just a TNA thing. So by the way, Chris Vaughn has discovered gear. And the funny thing was when they said representing black shirts, I was like, I thought they quit. Like what the fuck? Legend is gone, Northcutt is gone, Wilson's gone. What are they talking about? But those are the red shirts. These are the black shirts. Because we still have the fucking black shirt security, I guess. But Chris Vaughn did not come out in a t-shirt. He did not come out in his jeans or his black pants. He had actual gear and actual boots. And it did not help him.
No. He got killed.
Now, here's my problem, and we'll see if you know what you thought. This match went too fucking long.
Yeah.
Like it was right. The right team won, or the right guy won, you know, and it was a decisive victory. But I said this when Abyss wrestled Shark Boy 6 months ago, and either you or Trey gave me crap for it. He should not be going 50, but it wasn't even 50-50. He did beat Chris Vaughn a lot. He didn't need 5 minutes to beat Chris Vaughn.
No.
This was a 30-second squash match. 60 if you're generous. You give him just enough offense so he could run off the ropes and get pounced to hell and back. And that was all the match should have been, but alas, it was not. And anyway, the pounce period was not even the finish. He hit the pounce period and then hit the alpha bomb. And I don't know how long this is going to last, but the pounce period is a much better finish than the alpha bomb. After the match, he gave Vaughn another alpha bomb, and Don Harris marched to the ring to stop anything further. I still give the match a 2.0 out of 10.
I just enjoy monster squashes, even if they do go long. And alpha male Monty Brown looked like a monster. So I gave it a 3 out of 10. I mean, cut this match in half time-wise, and it would have been better.
And I don't know what to say. I mean, and it's like this show, beginning to end, goes an hour and 56 minutes. So it's not even like, when we're doing World Class on Tuesdays and they have that one match that goes absurdly, unbelievably, unnecessarily long. And you're like, well, somebody's got to eat up the minutes on this show. Hey, like, I'm happy they had the match, but they didn't even have to have the match. They had enough booked for this show. But B, it's like, they could have cut 4 minutes out of this and the show would have been just fine without it. But yeah, Alpha Male Monty Brown wins. And it's funny because like a year from now, yeah, it's actually almost literally a year from now, he is a beloved babyface who they turn heel because there was talk of him going to WWE. So yeah, between now and next March, Monty Brown becomes a beloved babyface. And they fuck him up because, well, he may go to WWE. And it ends up being a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And his career ends in WWE, but for all the right reasons.
You remember when, like, at first they had him using a cross arm breaker as his finisher?
Yeah.
Good God. What was wrong with those people?
And they had him as Marquis Corvon.
Yes. Marcus Corvon, and it was Marquis at first. Like, by the way, we talk a lot of shit about people. I want to give a shout out to Monty Brown, who gave up what could have been a very lucrative career to take care of his sister's kids after his sister, I forget if she passed away or if she just got really sick and couldn't take care of them.
She passed on, unfortunately.
Yeah, Monty Brown is an S-tier human being. Just gonna say it. Scott Hudson was now with AJ Styles. AJ said that he will be the number 1 contender after tonight. Hudson asked if Chris Harris is ready and if Raven has a point. AJ says yes to both and that he doesn't plan to speak to Russo. That makes 2 of us.
I mean,
do you plan on speaking to Russo?
Not really, but if the opportunity arose, there are a couple of questions I would ask, but not about wrestling.
Bro. You can't say the word wrestling about Vince Russo and not say bro after.
Yeah. 1, best Batman episode to get somebody hooked into the series. And 2, best place to get a slice in New York.
He hasn't lived in New York in a damn long time, so I don't know if I would take his word for that. He either lives in Colorado or Indiana, depending on who you ask.
RD would know, so.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Cyndi, but 2 people don't have to live in the same area in order to do a podcast.
Well, they exchange Christmas cards, so that'd be the answer.
Well, I guess That would be. I mean, technically on that effort, then RD knows where I live, or at least where I used to live. So I used to be on the RD Reynolds Christmas card list. Um, by the way,
I was on the
Russo is going to
Blade
be at
Braxton Christmas card list.
Russo is going to be on the in at the New England Fan Fest coming up in a few weeks. I've already met him, and I was happier meeting Ed Ferrara. Like, and I always say this: Ed Ferrara never made fun of my best friend's crippling health injury, and when I talked to him, he was a pretty cool dude.
He probably admits, yeah, that was a line too far.
Yes, he does. James Storm versus Shane Douglas with Tracy Brooks.
Mm.
Cyndi, a few weeks ago on this show, didn't James Storm have a horrible shoulder injury that's keeping him out of the ring for like months?
They said 4 to 6 weeks.
And that was not 4 to 6 weeks ago.
No, that
Just
was only
saying.
about 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Oh, by the way, we forgot to, I don't know if forget is the right word, but we failed to mention during the last match that Johnny Fairplay was randomly sitting in the front row with the West Coast bureau chief for Star Magazine. I hope they paid for their tickets. Like, they showed them twice, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the angle, especially later on when we get to AJ's match. I'm like, oh God, they're gonna have fucking Fairplay jump in for the finish, aren't they? But no, that was literally it. They showed them twice, and that was it.
And I think this is Fairplay's last appearance until the Best Damn shows.
I don't, I honestly don't know. It doesn't matter. He contributes more or less. He contributes nothing. Um, Now the thing is, from if I remember correctly, him and Jimmy Hart used to go around and at Universal Studios, and they would go around and yeah, if anybody recognized either of them, basically their job was to tell you, hey, there's a wrestling show here, TNA, go check them out. But that's like the best he pretty much ever did for the company. He collected a very nice check to do very little.
$300,000 worth.
Yep. And it's hilarious because like Hogan made about 750 a year. Kurt Angle, Sting, 500. And a lot of that was put in by Spike TV. This was pure Panda Energy money right here, baby. Pure Panda Energy money right into Johnny Fairplay's pocket. Imagine
he
if they
probably
tried
bought
calling
his
Spike.
grandmother a nice trip to Hawaii with it.
Imagine if they tried calling Spike TV in 2004 saying, hey, we got Johnny Fairplay on our pay-per-views. Can you help pay for his contract? Like, who the fuck is this? Loser number. James Storm with Shane Douglas with Tracy Brooks. We've already said that before, but hey, let's go back to it.
Yeah.
Douglas took a phantom bump off of what was supposed to be a super kick. Storm started doing the move, but Douglas bumped before Storm's foot went up in order to take it.
I love that spot. I had to rewind it 3 times and laugh.
Now, other than that, this actually was a perfectly acceptable match. And honestly, other than the phantom bump, I thought this was the best Shane Douglas has looked in TNA so far. Tracy distracted the referee while Storm was going for the super kick again, but Douglas avoided it and hit the belly-to-belly suplex, but the referee was still distracted by Tracy's boobs. I mean, she's a very lovely young lady. And
she also
Douglas
had
yelled
something
at
in
her.
her eye, which, hey, I said her eye, not down there.
Douglas got up and yelled at her, turned around and ate a super kick for the win. After the match, Douglas yelled at Tracy. Michael Shane ran in, and cooler heads prevailed. 4.0 out of 10.
3.5 out of 10. I had to take a half point up because of that.
So there is a woman on AEW, or I think ROH, because she's part of the infantry, and I have zero idea who the hell she is, but they came out for a match with QT Marshall and the Boom guy. And this, who, I talk about Tracy Brooks being a lovely young lady. Whew, this girl is
Ooh.
going after my heart. Never even heard of this woman before. After much searching, because apparently she has a weird spelled name, her name is Christian XO, and she is a very fine, fine young lady. And she's apparently 6'3", and you cannot teach that.
No, you can't.
And I don't know if she's actually in a relationship with Carly Bravo, but like I see a lot of pictures of them together, and she's like bent at the knees and is still towering over him, which also tells you just how not tall Carly Bravo is.
Nah, Carly Rowe was what, 5'6"?
I 5'7" was my guess, so close.
Yeah.
But yeah, Christian XO, very lovely young lady, even though her name is spelled stupid.
But I want to poke your brain about something, getting off topic of the show. But you heard the news about Ring of Honor doing a studio show.
I did. I think it kind of looks weird, but but I like the idea of it.
Do you think studio wrestling can work in this day and age?
I don't think it's a question of whether or not it works. It's like ROH is supposed to be developmental. And in my opinion, you're not going to learn being the Dynamite dark matches. And like honestly, especially with all that money they're getting from their TV deal, like they could afford to, have Ring of Honor be a bit of a loss leader, which I'm sure it is to some degree, especially with how many people are under contract to AEW right now. But it's like take a couple $1 million and send them on house show loops. Do the Ring of Honor house show loop every weekend. Basically do what the NXT house show loop used to be, you know? And like, you could send like, you know, a guy or a match. Send Orange Cassidy out to be the main event of the Ring of Honor house show tour, you know, against somebody. Send Mark Briscoe out there one weekend. Send Darby All In one weekend. It's like I don't even. It's not even a studio wrestling thing. It's just you know a developmental wrestling thing that they need to be doing with these guys. And I like the idea of it. I just when I saw it on, I saw clips of it. And I'm like, this is like the walls were all pink, and I'm sure that's just what the studio was. But it's like in my mind, all I could think was this is the AWA Team Challenge Series when they had the match in a pink room.
Yeah, and with no audience, it was like the WWE COVID era.
Yeah, I've been to indie shows that barely outdrew those COVID era SmackDowns.
Okay, I have the number to head of the least drawing indie show that I've ever been to. What's your number?
I estimate 15.
5.
Yeah, that sounds like something.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, when I went to what's that UK promotion? I can't think of their fucking name. Progress. When I went to Progress last year on WrestleMania weekend because it started at midnight, I was not expecting a very well attended show, but it did several hundred. So it tells you I'm not the only nut job, you know. But
look, it's WrestleMania weekend, and a lot of people want to work. A lot of people want to see wrestling and wrestlers that aren't WWE. So there you go.
And the funny thing was, like, that show ended like 2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And I get back to my hotel and I went to Ed in San Antonio's show, which was like at 9 in the morning the next day. And so I get there and out come a bunch of wrestlers who were on the Progress show the night before. I'm like, well, I wasn't the only person who didn't get much sleep last night. But so just going back to the Ring of Honor thing, it's like it's in my opinion, it's different from like when the NWA. I don't even know what they do these days, but when the NWA was doing the studio show at the PBS studio in Georgia, it's like I'm sorry, I was distracted by Tony Storm biting Marina Shafir's breasts. Um, she is not pleased by this, Marina. I think Tony
Tony,
was happy. But
Tony, the finisher is called Mother's Milk. You don't need to go for her Mother's Milk.
I mean that is a reversal of that hold.
Mm-hmm.
And then she won with a small package of all things. Um, so I think it works in the right situation, and I think and this is one of the things that I hope they're doing. It needs to be a TV wrestling show. They need to do promos. They need to do angles. Like when I've watched, like the handful of times I've watched Ring of Honor, it was basically AEW Dark. It was here's a match. Now we're going to show a commercial for an upcoming AEW show or AEW merchandise. And now here's another match. Here's another commercial. Here's another AEW match. And it just kept going like that the whole show. And it's like, you it's developmental. They're not learning anything if they're not learning all aspects of it. They need to cut a promo. They need to do an angle. They need to learn time cues. You need to pretend, even though you could make that show as long or as short as you want, you need to pretend this is a TV show because they have to be ready for AEW television. And obviously TNT and TBS give them leeway for overruns, but when you get to TV, you have to hit your cue. 7 minutes is 7 minutes, not 12 minutes and 14 seconds, not 3 minutes and 9 seconds. It's 7 minutes. And, and I say
Unless
this
something
as somebody
catastrophic happens.
and I say this as somebody who's never wrestled, and Ronda Rousey's just walked into the ring and has called out Tony Storm.
What?
Ronda Rousey just stepped into the ring and called out Tony Storm.
This has to. Oh God, I forgot. Oh,
Hey,
a
she's
member of the
1-0.
Twin Turfs has shown up to AEW.
I mean, I'll be honest. I was more surprised it wasn't Shayna Baszler. Although I guess Shayna is a coach in WWE now. At least it wasn't Jessamine Duke. Because say whatever you want. At least Ronda Rousey's better than Jessamine Duke. Oh, Aubrey, I love you, but don't grab Ronda Rousey. I once told Ronda to fight like a man, or yeah, to fight like a girl, and she broke my arm. Um, Scott Hudson is now with Jeff Jarrett and Abyss, who I guess were too good to stand at the new backdrop. Jarrett said he is not concerned with Chris Harris because Chris Harris knows he is not ready for Jeff Jarrett. Goldilocks randomly wandered in at this interview because when's the best time for Goldilocks to wander in but during the promo time of the world champion. And she's talking to Eric Watts, and apparently Eric Watts was actually on the phone this time. It was not Goldilocks talking to Eric Watts' answering machine. And so Jarrett took Goldilocks' phone, called him a big goof, and said that he hopes Eric Watts enjoys being on the unemployment line. Jarrett then mocked Goldilocks and then walked off. And then Goldilocks and Abyss kind of looked at each other.
And the cosmic ballet goes on.
Just saying, Jim Mitchell is so much better as Abyss's manager than anybody else.
Without a doubt.
I'm sure Goldilocks will do a fine job, and I legitimately have no memory of Goldilocks ever being Abyss's manager other than the fact that I know it's a thing, just that I don't actually know it's a thing. And I thought Ronda Rousey was about to deck Jon Moxley, but she just gave him a very stiff pat on the shoulder.
By the way, speaking of Goldilocks, she was just on Impact this past Thursday.
I did not watch Impact this past Thursday. Why was she on Impact this past Thursday?
She was kind of berating the Elegance brand for dissing Mickie James and all the other TNA originals.
What qualifies as a TNA original? I mean, technically, but I don't think they ever actually mentioned this. I mean, technically, Alexis Leray was there, obviously. We talked about her for several months on the show, but like no one associates Mickey James with like the early days of TNA. It's
I think they
it's
consider the term original is wonky.
did you re did you wrestle on Spike TV is more or less the line at this point.
Yes, and
It's
Mickey James did.
like, do you remember when the fucking Aces and Eights came out in the build up to Slammiversary a few years ago, and like they were treated like returning heroes, even though I think it was like Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe.
Yeah, it was those two.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like,
And it made sense for the two lowest members of Aces and Eights to essentially have a passable match and do the job.
it's always like what do you consider the lowest members of the Aces and Eights? Because like that is like one of the all-time weakest stables when it comes to talent depth. Like, and you can say, oh, Bully Ray's this and Devon is that, and it's like they had Mr. Anderson for a little while. They also had severely out of shape D'Lo Brown, Wes Briscoe, who got cut by WWE at a time when WWE was pretty much signing nothing but second and third generation wrestlers. The fact that they let him go should have, like him and Lacey Von Erich, like they were signing everybody who was the son or daughter of a former wrestler, and they cut Wes Briscoe and never signed Lacey Von Erich. That really should have been a tip off as to what that was all about.
They also cut Maverick Darso.
Who also was in TNA for a cup of coffee. I think
And
he was only in
little
like
else.
one match, but you know. I still remember when Jenna Maraska joined. She did an interview somewhere and she was like, "Oh, TNA has cookies and catering. I love that." Like, I'm sure all those people who didn't get a raise, but you got, six figures, were pleased that that's how you plugged TNA.
Cookies and peanut butter.
We then got our number one contenders gauntlet match.
We were
So
putting. I had to put all the distraction that we had. And to be honest, I'm kind of glad we did it because, oh god, this gauntlet.
So this is not the first time they've done this, but like this was determined the rankings, the top 10 rankings for the world heavyweight title. And think about all the people in TNA. Now, obviously, Jeff Jarrett and Chris Harris, they're in the world title match. Okay, that's fine. AJ Styles and Abyss are not in this match. They're in their own number one contenders match later on. This, in theory, should be the match that every top guy in the company wants to be in, because this match determines the next world champion. It determines the rankings to determine the world champion. And with all due love and respect to David Young, there's no legitimate ranking where you could put David Young as one of the top 13 contenders to the world title at this point. If there were 14 people in TNA right now, David Young would still not be in the top 13 contenders. And this is like, remember when AEW, like when CM Punk got injured and they did a battle royal, and like the winner of that battle royal took on Moxley, and the winner of that match took on Hiroshi Tanahashi for the AEW title. And like the battle royal was like nobody. It was like Kyle O'Reilly, who I'm pretty sure won because I remember him versus Moxley. And there was like a whole bunch of not the top guys, and specifically Wardlow, who like was just coming off of his big mega push, and his win over MJF. But yeah. But yeah, so now don't bother trying to learn these rankings because they will never be mentioned again. I don't know this for a fact, but I am confident the rankings in this match will never be mentioned again. However, like with every TNA Gauntlet match, It is Royal Rumble rules until we get down to the last two, and then you win by pinfall or submission like a real match. Number 1 is Simon Diamond. Number 2 is David Young. Diamond eliminated Young just before the next entrance. Number 3 is Kid Cash, who is wearing short trunks for what feels like the first time ever. Number 4 is D'Lo Brown. Number 5 is Glenn Gilberti, who inspired a Disco Sucks chant. Cash eliminated D'Lo with the head scissors over the top. And I'll be honest, because I could not figure out who was going to win this match, because I could not remember who the babyface team was last week. And the graphic they put it up and put it down so quickly, I did not note who was in it. But I figured, okay, D'Lo Brown is winning this. And then when he got eliminated, I'm like, okay, the other TNA trope is the person who comes in number 1 wins. So Simon Diamond is going to win the Gauntlet match. Which I'm like, that does not go anywhere because I know for a fact Simon Diamond never gets a world title match on pay-per-view. So number 6 is Sonny Siaki. Siaki used a pop-up power slam on Cash. I know I've said this before, but Kid Cash has really taken over the spot as the MVP of this company since Jerry Lynn has not been used that much. At this point, Raven randomly runs in and drops Sonny Siaki with a DDT before leaving, and Gilberti tossed Siaki. Now, this does not get drilled into your head like at all, but you see Sonny Siaki is Vince Russo's boy. And so he was here to cost Vince Russo's boy the match. That is literally it. And in fact, if Cyndi, you told me that you did not figure that one out, I wouldn't blame you. Because again, if things are supposed to make sense, you have to tell us why they make sense. And while I'm sure there'll be some sort of, hey, how are you? There is not a prolonged Raven Sonny Siaki feud in our future.
Not even close.
Number 7 is Michael Shane. Number 8 is Conan. And that, when Conan came out at number 8, that's when I realized who was winning the match. Because I was like, oh, yeah. And sure enough, number 9 is Ron the Truth Killings. Conan shoved Cash off the top rope to the floor. Gilberti dumped Conan. Diamond tossed Gilberti. And then number 10, Johnny Swinger, jumped the gun, ran to the ring, and dumped Diamond from behind. Shane then accidentally eliminated Swinger, leaving Michael Shane and Ron Killings as the final 2 people in the Battle Royal. Now, at this point, in my opinion, is when it got good. Not saying this is a 5-star match, but like they gave them more. Like, how many times we see these Gauntlet matches or any Royal Rumbles or anything like that, where it's like you get down to the final 2 and you get 30 seconds, maybe a minute to do their thing and go to a quick finish. These 2 had a match. And in my opinion, that took this to a high level, not a super high level. That took this to a level because, again, they're fighting to be the number 1 contender to the world title. They should not be like, and your guys in this match should not be such simpletons that they could get pinned in 30 seconds. This is like, these 2 guys won a match for the world title, and they're pulling out all the stops to get that world title match. And this went on for a little bit, probably like, I think 3 or 4 minutes, which, again, not minutes, like, 5 minutes. Not like, again, not end of the world amount of time, but it was still, enough time for a decent finish. Shane Douglas came down for immoral support as the match went on. Douglas threw Michael at Shane, and Michael threw it back, turned around, and got pinned by Truth after a gourd buster. Because, yes, if you can't pick up the subtlety of this show, after spending what feels like years building up who Shane Douglas's new franchise would be, they're already teasing dissension between them. After the match, Shane and Shane argued, with Douglas mad that Michael wouldn't cheat to win. Michael accepted the dressing down as the fans chanted for them to fight. I liked this match more than I expected, almost entirely due to that final. I gave it a 6.0 out of 10.
The gauntlet itself to get to the two that legitimately were the two best people you could have in the final, it was a 2 out of 10. But I would have liked to seen another Michael Shane truth match. We had it a few weeks ago, and it was good then. And for the 5 minutes that they got, it was good here. You were talking about what we should, if the Monty Brown match should have been cut by, 3 minutes?
Yeah. They should have given these guys those 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And like, I'll be honest, like, again, I was thinking D'Lo Brown was going to win. I think Ron Killings and D'Lo Brown would have been a fun, final there. But you got a good match here at the end. Even though I know Cyndi is a gigantic fan of Michael Shane, as we've discussed over the past year.
Right.
Almost.
I give it a 5 out of 10, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah. And it's like again, as soon as Conan came out, I'm like, oh yeah, that the weird ass May that we're gonna have with the world title especially. Ron Killings is a big part of that. And again, we always talk about, truth is not buried in the sense of, oh, he's buried. No, he's being buried within 3 Live Crew because he's not getting the chance to be the great Ron Killings that he is.
And you also
yeah,
have the whole month of May, not just in the world title scene, but everything is an interesting mess.
And here's the thing you're going to learn. In fact, I think most long-term TNA fans know this. Every time there is a reset, every time there's a new TV deal, they put the 3 titles on the same 3 people. So it's like we have to go through one wacky May and I even think the first week of June just to get us to the same thing that they always do, with Jeff Jarrett as the world champion, AJ Styles as the X Division champion, and America's Most Wanted as the tag team champions. And yeah. And it's like, especially when you look at it now, it's like, what the hell is AJ Styles doing as the X Division champion in 2.5 months? Chris Harris is in a main event world title feud right now. What the hell is he doing as the tag team champion in 2.5 months? But it's like, and it's like at this point, and it's part of it too. It's like they don't have the Fox Sports Net deal yet. There are negotiations. Like right now, the show's going to be on Sunday night at 7:00 Eastern, which has even more problems in the time slot they actually get. But yeah, I didn't even think about this at the time.
Most,
it's like I was thinking it's a bad spot just because real sports. It would be head to head with Sunday Night Heat, which I get it's the WWB show, but the WWB show would kick its ass at this point.
Right. And also at this time, it's the middle of the summer. And a lot of regional sports networks, especially the Fox Sports Net regions, the local one here, would have preempted it all the time for Mariners baseball.
Yeah. It's like Fox Sports Net had all those local baseball contracts. But yep. It is what it is. Like we would regularly get it preempted for the Phillies on our station, our local Fox Sports Net. And I think that's why later on they do those 2 replay versions that are like Saturday at midnight or something like that. And it's like because we need at least a stable time for people to see it at some point if they want to.
Yeah.
Scott Hudson was now with Raven and Russo, who are arguing. Sabu was there, and then I popped for this because it was I don't know, the most real part of the show because they're in the locker room, and it's like anytime you ever have locker room shots, where the hell is everybody else? you know, especially since we've seen the asylum inside and out at this point. We know they don't have 15 locker rooms for people to have their own place. Like we've seen Jeff Jarrett's office that doubles as his locker room, but it's like sitting in the background for no reason other than just to have somebody believably sitting in the background in a locker room scene is fucking Elix Skipper. You know, I'd pop for that, even though like Elix did nothing. They didn't call attention to him. Like it was just here's Elix Skipper standing in the background or sitting in the background. I popped. Um, Russo told Raven to leave, and Raven agreed to leave. And then Russo pointed Sabu towards Raven, and Sabu shoved him before leaving, turning Sabu into the top babyface of the promotion. And I'm sure you'll tell me that they wrestled on Explosion or something. But again, they flew Sabu in to do absolutely nothing on this show. I hope his check cleared.
It did.
Oh, God. Any thoughts on this one?
No.
Okay. AJ Styles versus Abyss in a number one contenders ladder match. AJ really was the best opponent for Abyss, and not just because AJ is so amazing at what he does. Abyss is extremely talented, but booking him against Shark Boy and Don Harris is not, accentuating the positives and hiding the negatives. It is accentuating the negatives of Abyss and hiding the positives. And here's the funny thing. They said this was a ladder match. They never showed what the hell they were supposed to be getting until several minutes into the match. They brought a ladder into the ring, and they bothered to pan the camera upwards to show that they're going to try to get a contract or a clipboard with a contract on it. AJ went to dive off the ladder, but Abyss knocked it over, and it was a good news, bad news situation. AJ did dive off the ladder. However, it was because he was crashing and burning into the ring. AJ gave Abyss a bulldog face first onto the ladder. Here's hoping that mask absorbs contact. A second ladder was bridged between the ring apron and the guardrail, and I began feeling pain as I mentioned that. We'll get to that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
And they wedge a chair between the top and middle ropes, and AJ goes face first into it. AJ then pancaked Abyss. It was more or less a Styles clash, but AJ couldn't hold him up long enough to hook the arms. AJ climbed the ladder and gave Abyss a 450 splash from two rungs from the top. Now, to be fair, it was not that much higher than the top rope, but it still looked spectacular, especially after a few weeks ago. Remember when he was trying to do the 450 to put Abyss through a table, and it just wasn't working out. This was great. And by the way, I don't know when Jerry Lynn decided to start tutoring John Moxley, but John Moxley just did a cradle pile driver. But Konosuke Takeshita kicked out because Jerry Lynn is the master of that particular move. So they set two chairs up next to each other in the ring, and hey, remember like two other times when AJ wrestled Abyss and AJ went for a sunset flip powerbomb out of the corner, and both times shenanigans occurred and he was not able to do that move? Well, in storytelling that was not picked up by Mike Tenay or Don West, he was able to do it here. On the third attempt, AJ Styles was able to give Abyss a sunset flip powerbomb onto those chairs. Raven ran out to watch the finish, which distracted AJ while he was on the ladder. Abyss turned over the ladder, and you remember that ladder bridge we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Well, AJ's trajectory was that he was going to miss the ladder, and for the second time on this show, on this match, this was a good news, bad news situation. The good news is AJ was able to move his body in the way so he collided with the ladder. The bad news is the only part of his body that hit the ladder was his fucking face.
Yeah, it's bad.
How the hell did AJ Styles never break his neck? Like, literally, dude. like, I get he's young and stupid, and I get young and stupid is the time to do crazy bumps, but Jesus Christ, he should have broken his neck. And we'll see him in a minute. At the very least, his face should have been fucked up all to hell. He should have broken his nose. He should have, like, I don't even fucking know. There should be orbital fractures or some shit. But no, nothing like that. And AJ just picked himself up, dusted himself off, and Abyss climbed the ladder and got the contract for the win. After the match, the black shirts walked Raven out of the building while Russo looked disappointed. And here's the thing, because this is TNA, there was still that part of me, especially when Raven came down. I'm like, oh, this motherfucker is going to drop Abyss and he's going to go up and get the contract because these fucking matches between AJ and Abyss, they can never just have a finish. Well, we got a finish here. And, 9.0 out of 10. I love this match. I want to watch AJ and Abyss wrestle every week if that meant that AJ and Abyss have a finish.
7.5 out of 10. I wanted like it more, but I don't know. Something prevented me from liking it more than I wanted to. This is another match that could use another 3 minutes.
I don't know. I thought this match went as long as it needed to go. I just, wanted actual finish.
Yeah.
So now your number one contenders for the world title are Abyss and Ron the Truth Killings. And I will say this. I do believe that Abyss winning was twofold. One was it does promote Abyss up the rankings. Because like he hadn't, he never really won a big match on this show before. He's had matches, but he's never really won a big match before. So this puts him up in that upper echelon now. And also, it gives the, every fan of the audience, it's like, okay, well, they're not going to do a heel versus heel world title program. So Abyss winning, holy shit, Chris Harris is going to win the world title now. They told us that the winner of this match gets the next world title match, and we ain't going to get Jeff Jarrett versus Abyss. They're going to get Chris Harris versus Abyss for the world title. Like, holy guacamole. So we get told next week we're going to have Monty Brown versus Don Harris. But that's not all. I sure as hell hope not. They tell us it's going to be the start of an 8-man tournament to determine the new tag team champions. And I guess we'll see, but I thought it was a 4-man tournament, but I guess, we'll see what happens next week. Maybe 4 teams got lost in the trip over to the asylum that week.
Yeah.
And then Jerry Lynn versus Elix Skipper versus Petey Williams versus Frankie Kazarian versus Amazing Red versus Nasawa in the previously mentioned X Division elimination match. And Don West was so busy marking out for the return of the Amazing Red, he almost forgot to tell us it was Nasawa. And the funny thing is, they didn't even tell us that's what it was. He just started naming people that are going to be wrestling next week. And we eventually figured out that's what it was. But it's like, it was just like, oh my God, Jerry Lynn, Elix Skipper, Petey Williams from Team Canada, Frankie Kazarian, and yes, the return of the Amazing Red. And Nassau was going to be here too.
Like, that's exactly how they said it.
Nassau. First CM Punk and Samoa Joe don't take him to the airport so he can get back to Japan. And now he's the afterthought in the 6-man elimination match.
Such disrespect for the JCW heavyweight champion at that time.
I guess I have no idea if the Nasawa story had happened in real life yet, but if you've never seen the Samoa Joe CM Punk shoot interview, is one of the most must-see shoot interviews of all time. And I'm sure it's on YouTube. Especially now that Ring of Honor isn't really a thing anymore, and so they're not just going in and taking down everything, even though in theory AEW is better at that than anybody, but still. So outside the arena, AJ Styles is still alive and gets into an argument with Raven before being broken up by the black shirts. I did not notice. I guess I wasn't really looking, but I did not notice any named indie people there. There was no Mr. Anderson. There was no who else was there? There was Davari was there the one time. None of them were there.
Vaughn. No,
Chris
Santel.
Vaughn. Well, Rick Santel may have been there. Honestly, I can barely remember what Rick Santel looks like. Those poor future of the NWA, Chris Vaughn and Rick Santel. Even like it was pretty dumb at the time, but even in retrospect, now that we've had Chris Vaughn and Rick Santel pretty frequently for a few months, that really was like the weirdest segment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
NWA World Champion Jeff Jarrett versus Chris Harris, and to help even get over this is Chris Harris's night. This was supposed to be my night. They had Chris Harris's mother, brother, and sister at ringside for this match. It would explain, because I mean, how many people actually own America's Most Wanted shirts? But they did. I think the one of them actually had a Chris Harris shirt.
I think both of them did.
I cannot imagine. What was that?
Both of them had Wildcat shirts. And the design of it was so weird. I thought it was like, you ever see BattleBots back in the day or Robot Wars?
I didn't see it, but I know what it is.
That looks like what you would find on one of those bots. You know, the logo they would have on the bots or on one of the team's shirts. And Wildcat, you think it'd be a cool name, but it'd be just some lame flipper bot or something.
Now, his brother had an America's Most Wanted shirt, though.
Yeah, the brother had the AMW shirt, but the mom and the sister or wife had the Wildcat shirt. The women had the Wildcat shirt. The brother had the AMW shirt.
Now, I'm going to say this. We have talked about how they have, never given the wrestlers who can go, they've never really given them the time to go. There was about 22, 23 minutes left in the show when this match started, and they went pretty darn close to the very end.
Yeah.
So like they had some time. I don't know, because I probably could have gone back to see. This may have been like the longest one-on-one singles match in TNA history up to this point.
It had
most main events, they typically get about 10 to 15 minutes. I think like the Raven Jarrett match went 13 minutes, and that had like 16 people interfering.
How long was the Jeff Jarrett? No, wait, can't say that because that was a 3-way. I forgot Raven was in that too.
I don't even think that was that long. I think that was only 15 minutes. I have to go back and check. Like the best I could think of, and this is like if you're wanting to stretch the definition of it, that gauntlet match on the first show went like half an hour. But that's also because you had 20 timed entrants. So it's like you kind of had to go at least a little bit of time. So Jarrett out-wrestled Harris at the start, using a drop toe hold and slapping the back of Chris Harris's head. It was very Razor Ramon, whereas Razor used to do that to the jobbers, where he'd slap them in the back of the head like that.
Yeah.
Seconds later, Harris went for an arm drag, and Jarrett sidestepped it, letting Harris fall to the mat, which, again, it's like missing a drop kick. How does it really hurt you more than usual? Because you're doing the same exact thing you would have done if you would have hit the move. But it was more just, I'm embarrassed because I did not hit my move. Jarrett went outside and screamed at everyone that Harris wasn't ready. So James Storm ran down and rolled him into the ring. And you could tell there was a drop in crowd enthusiasm because people just wanted Harris to have the match. Andrew Thomas came out and made Storm go to the back. Thankfully, they realized they had to do something to get the crowd back into it. and Harris fired up and got a flurry of offense to get the crowd going. Outside the ring, Harris ran up the ring steps, but Jarrett sidestepped him, and Harris crashed into the guardrail. And later on, Jarrett moved out of the way from a top rope leg drop. And by the way, something is happening on AEW right now, and I don't think it's PCO. Oh, that's Sami Callihan. Sami Callihan may be the new challenger for Jon Moxley, but we'll see here in a second. Somebody is. There's something happening on AEW right now.
I know that
It'll
a lot
probably
of
be
people
good.
are pissed off that Ronda Rousey debuted.
Honestly, I'm at the who really cares stage. Who the hell was that? Somebody, and even Jon Moxley's like, who? Um, oh my God, it's Ospreay. It looked nothing like Will Ospreay, but it was Will Ospreay.
And now Mox is
Um,
like, okay.
I would like to point out that I thought that Will Ospreay looked like Sami Callihan.
How the hell do you fucking confuse those two?
To be fair, they showed like half a second of him and cut away. And all I saw was like the beard and the crazy hair. I was like, oh, Sami Callihan trimmed up, lost a bit of weight there.
Lost about 75 pounds.
Back to the show here. Yeah, so Chris Harris misses a top rope leg drop, and that move just is not working here tonight. Jarrett put on a figure four, so Russo walked down with a towel, and once again, TNA is booking themselves in a way to take the crowd out of the match because now everyone is just waiting for Russo to do whatever he's going to do for the finish. And especially when he had the fucking towel, because it's like, they are really going to do that fucking spot where Russo comes down and throws the towel in. Even if it does end up with the whole, him just taking it and throwing it back out of the ring. But it's like, still, that's a dumb fucking spot. Anyway, Harris reversed the figure four, which got reversed into the ropes. Harris dove over the top rope, over the guardrail onto Jarrett. And this is where I got pissed off even more. They go on the microphone. Now, Chris Harris just did a dive. Jarrett is on the other side of the guardrail. Chris Harris has done a dive over the guardrail onto Jeff Jarrett. The crowd is popping. The crowd is losing their shit. And they immediately announce, not even after a few seconds, not even after 30 seconds, they immediately announce that the referee is going to begin a count out right now. Only in TNA do you have to announce that you're going to enforce the rules. And anyway, they both got in the ring, so there was just a stupid ass fucking spot. And to make it even dumber, the move was Chris Harris did a top rope dive to Jeff Jarrett. Cyndi, who got in the ring first?
Jarrett.
Who?
Jeff Jarrett got in the ring first.
Yes. And then, not only did Jeff Jarrett get in the ring first, Jeff Jarrett got in the ring by like the count of 5. And so they had to sell it that Chris Harris could not get back in the ring. And he just barely beat the count of 10. Please do explain how that makes sense.
It doesn't make sense except for, well, Superman Jeff Jarrett's at it again.
They wanted to do a cool spot. And here's the funny thing about wanting to do a cool spot. Next year, because again, this is always like the mind fuck of all this. We're like beginning of 2004 versus end of 2005, how different TNA is. Next year, they do a pay-per-view main event with Rhino versus Jeff Jarrett at the Impact Zone. Rhino gives Jeff Jarrett a gore on the ramp through a table that's set up at the tunnel, and they both tumble down the tunnel. And they then make the announcement that the referee's going to begin counting, and if you don't get back to the ring, it's going to be a count out. America's Most Wanted ran out and dragged Jeff Jarrett to the ring, because that's when AMW were heels, and so they were all on the same team. So that made sense. And then because Rhino more or less just went head first through a table, it made sense that he then had to fight and struggle to get back to the ring. It was still a stupid spot, but that made sense. Oh, God. So Harris used a delayed vertical suplex and an elbow drop, and then a spear for a pair of near falls. Harris then, quote unquote, accidentally speared Rudy Charles, which was the least accident we've ever seen on this show. Because, like, I don't even think Jeff Jarrett moved. Like, Rudy Charles was next to Jeff Jarrett. Chris Harris hit a spear to Rudy Charles.
He deserved it.
He does.
I mean, he's the main reason why Drew McIntyre lost the title.
Yep. Jarrett grabbed a chair and Harris swung a chair into Jarrett's head, but Jarrett kicked out. Jarrett hit Harris with the title belt for a near fall. Harris got the catatonic for a 2 count. He goes for the sharpshooter, but Jarrett kicked him off into replacement referee Andrew Thomas. James Storm ran down and super kicked Jarrett, and Harris would have won, but Raven ran in and yanked the referee out, and then Jarrett used the guitar for the win. So I get that they were trying to protect Chris Harris. I get that. I get the whole point was we're trying to prove that even though we spent a month telling you that Chris Harris isn't ready, Chris Harris was ready. He got screwed at the end. Except he didn't really get screwed at the end because he had to have his partner run down and win the match for him. What should have been the finish was, even if you want to do the whole Raven gets involved thing, when James Storm gets kicked out, James Storm gets kicked out. There's no more James Storm. So the finish is you do the referee bump. Chris Harris hits the catatonic. Chris Harris can hit the spear. It doesn't matter. Chris Harris hits a finisher. And he gets the visual pinfall with the crowd chanting along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's when Andrew Thomas runs down and counts 1, 2, Jarrett kicks out. And then you do the whole Raven runs out. I figure out how you bump the referee or get Andrew Thomas out of the way or whatever. But that's when Raven runs down, drops Chris Harris, and you have Jarrett put his arm over and get the pin. Because otherwise, Chris Harris got buried here. Not buried, but Chris Harris, in an effort to protect him, they did not protect him at all.
Yeah, there's a little bit of topsoil on him. Not a lot, though. Like about a half inch of topsoil.
This is when The Undertaker beat Mankind in the Buried Alive match, and they told us he'd have to be buried completely alive, and it was basically just throw some dirt on Mankind, and that counts. But yeah.
Oh, God. Why did you have me remember the end of that thing? Because the fucking executioner happened.
Well, not only did the executioner happen, they also sent out Justin Hawk Bradshaw and Hunter Hearst Helmsley and like every other lower card heel to go help pour dirt. Like the New Rockers, I think, came out there to help.
Yeah.
Because they had to fill up an entire hole, and those two people could not fill a grave in like 2 minutes.
Kind of shocked the Sultan didn't also come out and help.
This is why, I remember like the Undertaker Kane Buried Alive match when they just had like the backhoe.
Smartest thing they ever did for those Buried Alive matches.
Yes. Although it's hard to do a false finish when you have a backhoe that you then have to like go grab and, commandeer and whatnot. But those types of matches were always pretty bad when it came to having to get a false finish out of it. But anyway, after the match, Russo, because again, Russo is the top babyface, Russo took the mic and said that Raven has his attention now and that next week he'll pay the consequences. Russo said that next time Jarrett defends the title, it will be in a steel cage. And he's like, it's going to be the biggest steel cage ever. Now, I
with
remember some
blackjack
hype.
and hookers.
I remember some hype for the biggest steel cage ever. However, we also saw a cage match last year, and that fucking cage was pretty goddamn high up. And this isn't a major arena. Spoiler alert, they're not gonna go anywhere else for that match. It's gonna be at the asylum. They don't have enough room to make it a fucking cage that's any higher. Just saying.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so AJ ran back in to fight with Raven as the show went off the air. This was every Jeff Jarrett world title match we've ever seen. They did try to do everything they could to make Chris Harris a viable challenger, but there was just it's still on the list of 5 people who are going to leave this show. Had the who should be getting a world title match. Chris Harris came out of this in the 5 spot more than the 1 spot. They did more on that non-title match to get him over as the guy that should be getting a title match than this.
Yeah.
But
especially since in that non-title match he got the visual 3.
Yeah. And he actually got 2 of them. And again, I did like this match. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Just that, again, it could have been better.
That's exactly what I thought. It could have been so much better. And they did show some restraint for a Jeff Jarrett title match. Because one thing was missing out of a normal Jeff Jarrett title match.
The brawl all around the arena?
Exactly. It was missing out of this one.
And they went 20 plus minutes and didn't have the brawl all around the arena.
There is some restraint happening for the show.
By the way, Willow Nightingale just hit the pounce, period.
Yay.
And it's like, and here's the thing, and it's like, and we talked about it got repetitive with the post-match angles on every fucking match, but it was like, again, they have been getting better at if we're going to have a main event that's going to have 8 million people interfering in the match, then we should not have interference in the other 7 matches on the show. They've gotten better at that. It's like they're learning a lesson. Now we know that lesson won't last for very long because it is TNA after all. And yeah. So that brings us to the end of TNA.
The interference made sense because it was Raven.
It would have made more sense if we hadn't seen Raven get thrown out of the arena 3 times by this point.
Yeah.
Just saying. So that comes to the final scores. Overall match quality 5.5. Overall enjoyment 7.5. TNA hit a home run this week. It might have been an inside the park home run, but they hit a home run this week and put on an actual good wrestling show featuring their actual full-time wrestlers. Maybe they can make a habit out of this. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, the seeds are being planted.
Yes. Now, future build, I still think, it's a convoluted way to suddenly have 5 people suddenly deserving title matches, but they did manage to pull it off in a way. Now we're not, here's the thing though, it's like, if you're going to set that up, like, oh man, we now have 5 people who deserve world title matches, including 2 people on this show who won number 1 contenders matches, that should be leading to 5 Jeff Jarrett singles matches. There will not be 5 Jeff Jarrett singles title matches here. But yeah, we'll see what happens next. I gave Future Build a 7.0, giving us an overall rating on this show of a 6.67, which is almost unheard of when it comes to this thing. By the way, 19 minutes and 45 seconds, according to ProWrestlingHistory.com.
It went the perfect length.
Yes. It's like there are longer matches, but they're like, the X Cup 8-man tag match and things like that. And just trying to scroll up. Tell us more of your overall thoughts on the show here as we're going through this.
X Cup aside, this is one of the best shows that we've watched top to bottom. Granted, you had a match that was half a stinker, and that was the gauntlet part of the gauntlet. But you take a look at the rest of these matches, they actually furthered stuff. You have Kazarian becoming a menace in the X Division. Monty Brown showed off what he can do. You have the dissension of the new franchise, which it will happen soon. You got your main event scene set up with Truth, Abyss, Raven, Styles, or your main event challengers. And Chris Harris still there. But as you said, on the 5 spot. And you're wondering how long can Jeff Jarrett dodge lightning?
Mm-hmm. By the way, with the amount of talent in this promotion, there's no reason why there should not be a 15 to 20 minute match every week, especially in the main event segment, or because I'm going through here, it's like shit, like I'm not finding very many challengers to a 19-minute match. Like, by the way, that Jarrett Raven match, I remember going 13 minutes, apparently went 17:33. So that's the closest I'm finding so far. But most TNA main events tend to go 10 to 13 minutes, and most matches underneath tend to not get a whole lot of time. Most of those matches tend to go around 7 minutes on the undercard.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the only match so far I've been finding, and I was scrolling through 2003. The only match I found that was longer was a gauntlet match, which again, timed entrances. That's going to do the thing here. And Jesus Christ, I do not remember this show. July 16, 2003, the main event was D'Lo Brown versus Vince Russo going to a no contest in 2 minutes and 44 seconds, which was not even the shortest match on the show.
No, if I remember correctly, that was the show. Didn't D'Lo beat Sonny Siaki or something to get that shot at Russo?
Yes, the opener was D'Lo versus Sonny Siaki in 4 minutes and 29 seconds.
Probably had to have Team Bitch Slap for about 5 minutes or something in a segment.
Well, without going, I am confident. I'm confident that we eviscerated that show.
Yeah, it was shit.
Literally at this point, the only singles matches I'm finding that went longer are fucking gauntlet matches, which don't really count in what I'm talking about. It's like Shane Douglas and Raven, by the way, the hair versus hair match went 17 minutes. Because of all the fucking matches on this show to have gone that long, that's definitely one of them.
What about the Super X Cup? How long did that main event between Sabin and Hoovy go?
Let me scroll back here. 14:46.
Close.
Yeah.
But that was a good 15-minute match. One of the best that we've seen.
Yes. Oh, most definitely. I mean, that may have been the best show, period, that we've seen. And let's see here. I was about to say a 5-minute last man standing match, but that was Raven and Jim Mitchell. So that went about as long as it needed to.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, we're here's one. How long did I say Jarrett and Chris Harris went?
1945.
We have a close second place. December 3rd, 2003, Jeff Jarrett versus AJ Styles, 1926.
Yeah, that was the start of the With Us or Against Us thing, and that was when Kid Cash joined.
Yeah. So yeah, I am confident I am not going to find one in 2002, but maybe that I was going to say the three-way ladder match, but that again,
no,
I might
count.
give it to them. Just let's see, 10. That might be the closest we're getting. We did get AJ and Jerry Lynn versus the Flying Elvises for 17 minutes, which almost feels impossible. But
Mm.
yeah.
Well, you had three
Um,
great workers and Jorge Estrada.
I mean, he occasionally came close to hitting moves.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Um, yeah, that show where we got like 15 AJ Styles Jerry Lynn matches, the best one of those went to 11. Um, let's see. The three-way ladder match barely beats it, but it doesn't count. It was 1957.
Yeah.
Again, this also shows exactly what we're saying. It should not, I should not need to find, it should not take me long to find a match in TNA history, a singles match, to go 20 minutes. At this point, that means there's not even been a 20-minute one-on-one match in TNA. Like even the longest Jerry Lynn AJ match I found was 17 minutes. God, remember that fucking ladder match that Six Pac walked in and won at the very end?
Oh shit.
Oh, here we have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. I completely forgot about this, but I bet this match was a banger. November 6th, 2002, Jerry Lynn pinned AJ Styles to win the X Division title, 20 minutes and 59 seconds.
I'm pretty sure it was.
But again, like that is just like that is sad. That one match in 84 shows beats that. Yeah, I finished it out. Only one singles match. There is too much good talent on this show to not do a 15, 20-minute match on every show. But
It's unfathomable to me.
and you wonder why people liked ROH more because people wanted something different. This isn't different. This is WWE light. This is WWE with lesser talent. Or not lesser talent, lesser stars. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. They wanted something completely different. They wanted good matches and they didn't want Triple H.
And
Instead,
the difference between Ring of Honor and TNA is that TNA had much better funding, or they had more specifically because especially like when they got bought by Pan Energy, or not Pan Energy, but when they bought by Sinclair, Sinclair fucking has money. However, TNA's owner and TNA's financer was a lot more willing to spend it than ROH's. You know,
I
that's the
also,
difference between TNA and ROH. And before
yeah,
anyone goes, oh, TNA is still in business today. TNA is still in business today because they got a lot of people that were willing to pump a lot of money into that company.
and it's only recently that the company is like Anthem is starting to see something pay off. It only took them what
A
10 years
decade.
after buying it.
It's been a decade since that time when Dixie, quote unquote, sold the company to Billy Corgan, but didn't really sell the company to Billy Corgan.
And my personal thought, if the Corgan deal did go through, TNA would be dead.
You remember when Anthem, like the first year they had TNA, so 2017, they had to let go so many people who worked for their stations, who worked for Fight Network, who been there for years because they lost a shit ton of money in AEW. I'm sorry, on TNA. They almost had to close TNA 2017 because of how much money they lost. But like, I don't. I think it was Demore and Callis that basically convinced them to give him one more chance.
Right. And you
Like,
could tell that they're like, okay, we're going to seriously scale back. And
yeah,
that's why they did a lot of their shows in, there's shows in two main places Vegas, namely Sam's Town Casino, and some small arena in Windsor.
there was that place they did Bound for Glory in the one year, the one with Eli Drake versus John Morrison, and it was like they taped like what felt like 4 months of Impact immediately after that.
Oh, the Manhattan Center.
No, it wasn't the Manhattan Center. That was Austin Aries and John Morrison.
Mm.
Eli Drake and John Morrison was some small
Oh,
arena
the
in Canada.
cathedral.
I don't remember, but anyway,
Yeah, it was
we're just gonna call.
2017.
Yeah, we're gonna call it here. We've gone long enough, and hey, Trey, listen to this right now. We went through this without any technical errors. It wasn't my fault, although I do think I think it was partially my fault. It turns out I got in my mind last week to torrent the entire run of Dark Side of the Ring, and I had to do it on Wednesday, the day we taped Smoky Mountain, and I had like no memory left on my computer, and I think that's what was causing it.
Oops.
But yeah, yeah. Anyway, don't tell Trey. He probably isn't listening to the show anyway. All right.
I'm not friends with Trey on Facebook or any social media, so I wouldn't know how to get a hold of him in the first place.
All right, so that's going to do it for this week's show. I want to thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Back to Breath of the Wild for me.